Welcome to the Career Change Podcast, where you'll discover the frank and practical advice and resources that are already proven to work in the real world when it comes to changing careers or figuring out what business is right for you when you are a smart but likely also stuck, overwhelmed, or overthinking person in your mid-30s, your 40s, your mid-50s. I'm your host, Rikke Hansen, a career change advisor, entrepreneur, and former corporate HR professional with over 15 years experience of helping thousands of people just like you identify or create careers or businesses that are both meaningful and future-proof. Welcome home. Hey, it's Rikke here. Welcome to episode 64 of the Career Change Podcast. Are you stuck in the I can't just walk away trap? If you are a professional over 40 who would love to change careers or start your own business or portfolio career, but you've already worked really hard to get to where you are today in your profession, in your current career, and therefore feel trapped by it, this episode is for you. Because here's what I know about you. Even though you no longer enjoy and might even resent your current career, the thought stopping you from changing away from it is that it would be crazy to throw it all away. You've already come so far. And you might have this belief that if you make a change, you will have to start from scratch again. And that means losing everything you worked so hard for the last 10, 20, 30 years. So you tell yourself that you have no choice but to stay put with the devil you know. You might as well keep going, right? So here is what's vital for you to know as a professional after 40 if you want to break away from that way of thinking. And that is that how you view your career history so far, the many years you work so far, how you view that career history can make or break your career change. And that's because it can either be a trap that keeps you stuck, or it can be the most energizing motivation for making a change now. And the difference is not actually in the actual career or profession that you've had so far. Rather, it is in the story that you are telling yourself about it and what you make that career mean. As in what you think happens when you leave a profession or career behind to do something new or different as someone over 40 in this new world of work. So keep listening, my friend. I've got you. Now, let's first of all understand what's really going on inside the head of a lot of professionals, because that means we'll then be able to tidy up all of the heavy and emotionally clouded thinking that's keeping you stuck, all right? We'll also be able to understand the vital role of your past in the career change process you want to make, and make that past work for you, as in being to your advantage, as opposed to keeping you trapped. Oh, and also do watch out for an analogy that I'm going to make in the second part here that could change how you view the last 20 or 30 or 10 years of your work life, and then turn them to your advantage as a career changer over 40 and actually get you excited, fired up to move on. So let's start by talking about the trap that you might feel like you have no choice but to be stuck in. And that makes it so hard for you right now to commit to your career change, or to even believe that a career change is a realistic choice for someone like you. Now, I call this trap the I can't just walk away trap, because that's what my clients, they've often said to me over the years before I changed their mind. So here's what they often tell me. But Rikke, I've already spent decades specializing in this field. I've qualified, I've trained, I built a solid resume, a solid CV. I've earned the title, the status, the reputation. It would be crazy to throw it all away and start from scratch again. Or, but Rikke, I've already invested so much time, 1, 2, 3 decades of my life, a ton of energy, a ton of resources. And also I've sacrificed so much. I've sacrificed a marriage, several friendships, and my creativity on the altar of this profession. Hear a variety of this. So what do they say? I might as well keep going. And then this one. Oh, and remember, I'm 40 plus. This I can't just walk away trap is one of the biggest reasons why so many professionals over 40, they continue to stay stuck in careers that they have long outgrown, that they do no longer enjoy and that they might even hate because you have all of the trappings, right? Now, I get this. I absolutely understand it. It is exactly because you spend so many years, so much energy, and so many resources on your current career that you feel trapped. It's also why the thought of leaving it behind can feel so heavy. Remember, and you will hear me talk about this often, we humans are wired for survival because we used to live under much more scary and life-threatening conditions for the majority of the time we've been on Earth. So we are wired for survival. We're not wired for optimizing happiness and fulfillment at work. So what that means is that we are wired to fear loss far more than we are excited by gain. That's kind of to keep us alive, right? This is called loss aversion. And it's exactly what makes this trap so hard to break out of. So what happens is that the thought of losing 20 years terrifies you, even when what's on offer are 20 better ones ahead, right? And also even if you hate your current career. But here's the great thing. Thankfully, as humans, we have agency, personal agency. So we can choose to act autonomously and we can choose to make different choices, take different action, and therefore influence and change the direction of our work lives for the better. So what I want to do now, I want to talk about another word for this I can't just walk away trap. And that's what economists, they call the sunk cost fallacy. And they have a fantastic way of handling this sunk cost fallacy that actually reflects how I handle it with my clients. Now, you might be wondering, why am I about to use a financial term to talk about something so emotional? And here's why. There's actually a concept in economics that perfectly illustrates what you are doing emotionally right now. It's the same faulty logic. It's just running on emotional debt instead of your bank balance. And once you see what you're doing, once you see clearly what this fallacy does, it doesn't just explain what you're doing right now and why you feel stuck. It can also help you make much better career change decisions and also decisions in general. Now, this sunk cost fallacy concept, it's often defined as the tendency to stick with a decision because of money, time, or effort already spent, even when it no longer makes sense to continue. Does that sound familiar, right? That's exactly what you just heard my client say. I've already invested so much. I have no choice to keep going. I might as well keep going. This is what you are likely also telling yourself right now. That is the sunk cost fallacy talking right there. Now, according to economists, here's why this is problematic thinking. When it comes to how you're currently approaching your career change, here's what you're really doing when you talk to yourself like that. You are basing your career change decision on what you are afraid to lose, on what's already passed, not on where you truly want to go next or what you want out of the future. So here's what that looks like. Instead of making decisions about your career change based on future desired outcomes, you choose instead to base your career change decision on and feel trapped by what has effectively already been lost. In this case, the many, many years you already invested in your career, years that are already gone, those years have passed. But according to economists, that behavior is irrational. It's not a viable financial strategy because those losses, those costs, they can never be recovered. Those many years that you invested in the career you're in right now, they've already gone. They've already passed. They're unrecoverable. No matter what you do next, you cannot bring them back. You cannot make up for the losses, i.e., they are those many years, what economists would call a sunk cost. And what's important to understand for career change purposes here is that economists, they do not include sunk costs in future decision-making, exactly because that cost is gone, it's sunk, and therefore should have no bearing on the decision in front of you. Do you see where this is going? Right? So I recently discovered that the Concorde, the supersonic airliner, is often being used as an analogy for sunk cost, as a great example of what a sunk cost is. It's even known as the Concorde fallacy, right? And to quote the original study, the 1985 Arkes and Bloomer study, they literally say that it describes this cognitive bias, this tendency to, in quotation marks, throw good money after bad rather than cutting losses, in the quote, right? It's from this paper called The Psychology of Sunk Cost. But think about it. If you're Gen X, elder millennial, which this podcast is for, those two generations, then you'll remember the Concorde, right? The development of the Concorde actually continued for decades, despite clear evidence that it would never, ever be commercially viable. Why? The British and the French government, they pretty much justified continuing with that project exactly and only because so much money had already been invested. But ultimately, that sunk cost ended up costing the British and the French government over $2.8 billion with no possibility of return. Ouch, right? I mean, I'm sure you can think of plenty of well-known other projects or products where this sunk cost fallacy played out. You might even see it in the office or the company you work or in your own life. And also, let's face it, it's not just a Concorde, it's also things like relationships, right? But let's not go there today. Now, think about what this means for you. To tell yourself that you must stick with the career you chose after university because you have invested the last 10, 20, 30 years in it, especially when you also hate it, because that's the thing here, right? That is literally the equivalent of wanting to include a non-recoverable cost into your career change making. That is the fallacy part. You believe or hope deep down that you can somehow redeem or make up for your loss by continuing in that career or profession, when all you're really doing is adding new losses on top of old ones. What you're doing is throwing perfectly good to use for something else years on top of a pile of stuff you already know you don't want, right? Now I get it. It can be so hard to pull yourself out of this emotional trap. You carry so much of all of this emotional debt and resentment of time and effort spent. Even now, when you come to the realization that you do not want to continue, you almost feel like you have to, but you got to put yourself out. Remember, we are talking about the rest of your life here. You still have many years left to work. So let's make sure that you think really carefully and meaningfully about what you want to base your future decisions on, so that you are not facing a Groundhog Day ahead of you of things you already know that you don't want, just because of the sunk cost fallacy, or just because you feel that you have no choice to be stuck in the I can't just walk away trap. Now, the good news is that when it comes to making a career change after 40, you're exceptionally well placed. The skills, the self-knowledge, the achievements you accumulated along the way, they are not a sunk cost. They're a phenomenal portable asset. We'll talk about that in a moment. But just to be clear, I am not telling you that your past doesn't matter. What I'm telling you is to let go, to drop the emotional debt of it that's clouding your decision making and that's keeping you stuck in the I can't just walk away trap. Here's what I so often tell my clients. Please stop letting your 23-year-old self who chose your current career, your current profession, dictate what's available to you right now or not. Stop letting that 23-year-old self dictate that you cannot walk away from your current career because you already invested so many years. I mean, literally the most emotionally expensive and draining thing you can do as a professional over 40 is to let an unrecoverable past work investment determine your entire future, especially if your day-to-day experience of the consequences of that decision are no longer worth it. Here's one of the most important things that I want you to keep in mind when it comes to the sunk cost fallacy and how to get out of it. What you want to change is that from now on, you must make career change decisions based on future value, not on past investments. All right? Because here's the thing. Do you really want to spend the next 20, 30 years of your work life just going through the motions in a profession you are already done with? One that doesn't feel creative or meaningful or exciting, and that no longer gives you the kind of creative or intellectual challenge you crave. Because that is what's sticking and staying stuck with the sunk cost fallacy, with the I can't just walk away trap is going to tell you to do, and that's going to be the offshot of that. And here's what I know about you, my friend. If you are listening to the Career Change podcast, then you very well know that the return on investment of your current career is no longer a good one. You know what? A great way to start getting out of this trap is to ask what's called a zero-based thinking question or a fresh start thinking question, where you literally ask yourself, knowing what I know now, would I choose X again today? So what that would mean right here would be, knowing what I know now, 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or whatever it is, years into my career as a lawyer, finance, IT, HR, etc. professional, would I choose this same career again today? Knowing what I know now, X years in, would I choose this same career again today? Remember, you got to ask yourself that now, because you still have 20, 30 years of work life to go. Why would you want to insist on Groundhog Day? If you wouldn't want to make the same choice again today, knowing what you know now, why do it? Because that is what you're doing by staying stuck in the I can't just walk away trap. Now, I know this can be a lot to take in, and it can feel really heavy when you realize just how loss-focused you've been when it comes to your career change. But now you know why you feel so heavy, and awareness is key. And just understanding where you might be going wrong right now, where you might be self-sabotaging, that really is the first part to solving this problem. And here's the great thing. Once you see it, you can start catching yourself and course correct and flip it. So let me help you flip it. Let me help you lighten the load, because I want you to know there is a much more empowering and practical way of looking at the career change process. So let's talk about what to do instead. Let's talk about a much better way, a much more empowering way to think about those valuable last 10, 20, 30 years of your work life. So we can turn those years and all of that experience into an advantage and a launchpad for your career change, rather than having them take you prisoner inside the I can't just walk away trap and make you feel trapped in the professional job that you hate. Right? Let's talk about this. I literally call what you're going to be doing now when you change career, I literally call this the editing job. Here's the thing. The I can't just walk away trap makes you feel like you have two options right now. Either you stay stuck or you throw it all away and start from scratch. And frankly, that is such a scary, lost focus and demotivating way to think about your career change, because the truth is, career change is not the equivalent of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's not all or nothing. But inside the trap, you're behaving as if that's the case. But here's how it works in real life. A successful career change, here's how I approach it with my clients. A successful career change, what it is, it's down to doing a really good editing job. Let me repeat that. A successful career change comes down to doing a really good editing job. So I often get asked, how do I define career change? And one of my favorite definitions that I come up with is that a successful career change has three parts to it. So 3 things. Number 1, you diagnose and decide what you want to get rid of, what you no longer want. Number 2, then you also diagnose and decide what you want to continue to build on that you already got. And number 3, you diagnose and decide and add what's missing We won't talk about that third point today, but the first two definitely. But those are the three things that really make up a successful career change. Can I hear a sigh of relief? Isn't that so much more empowering than feeling stuck in the I can't just walk away trap? And the good news is, after 40, they're so much easier and simpler to do. And also, here is one of the most beautiful things about being over 40 and why I work with clients over 40. It's because you have so many advantages. You already have so much to build on. You got decades of it. All you are getting rid of and throwing away is what no longer works. Let me repeat that. All you are getting rid of, throwing away, is what no longer works. And you should want to. It's causing you so much pain. But the good news is everything else stays. It belongs to you, and you can use it to continue to build on and get your career change off to a flying start. There's also an analogy that I want to give you here that my clients love when I use it with them. And that's what I call the warm-up band analogy, because that's what's exciting about being over 40. I want you to think of your career so far as the warm-up band for the real thing. It's not something, those years is not something you have to throw away. They warmed you up. But until now, it was just the warm-up band or the cover band. But now after 40, you're ready for the real thing. You're not trapped. You're not throwing everything away. Rather, you're ready to do your own thing. You're ready for the main stage to play your own unique kind of music, the kind of music that can only come from you, exactly because you've had so many years of real life feedback, testing things, experiencing yourself in the world of work. So the music analogy would be that you wouldn't have got to the stage where you're ready for the change to do your own thing. You wouldn't have gotten here without the many, many years in the rehearsal studio, developing skills, figuring out what you're good at, discovering what you hate. So far in your career, you've been the supporting act. You might have been doing law or finance and IT, marketing, HR. You were not quite ready for the headline, the mainline slot. But now you've had enough of dingy basements, toxic tour managers who take advantage of you, shitty tour buses, and greasy junk food meals. You're ready for the main stage, right? You are finally ready to do work, to do career, to do a business that truly feels like you. You're done with the warm-up band. You're ready to be the main act. And here's the beautiful thing, and I really want you to feel this. Everything, hear me out here, because I know this. I have helped hundreds of clients change careers, start their own business, do portfolio careers. Here's what I know about every single one of them. Everything has prepared you for this moment. Everything has prepared you for this moment of change. You are so much better placed after 40 for making a change because your entire life up until this moment, your work life, your life has prepared you for it. That's the warm-up band analogy, and that's how I want you to think about where you're at right now. You are not choosing between staying stuck and throwing it all away. That is not the real choice. Rather than focusing your career change as being all about loss, what I want you to do is to flip it around, and I want you to see it as the perfect opportunity to get rid of what no longer works for you. I want you to see it as the perfect opportunity to bloody finally start getting rid of all of those things you hate, right? That are not good for you, that drains you, that sucks life and soul out of you, in order for you to finally play your music in a way that only you can. That analogy. So what should really go for a lot of my clients, what they are so excited to finally throw away or get rid of, for some of them, it might be the subject. They have no interest in accounting or in finance or in IT or law or HR, whatever it is. For some of them, it's literally the subject, the expertise. They cannot wait to see the back of it, right? Not for all of them, but for some of them. For other people, they cannot wait to get rid of their horrible boss, to get rid of management, to get rid of people telling them what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and to have to be somewhere at a certain stage, at a certain time, and a certain place every day. They cannot wait to get rid of toxic work cultures, politics, long working hours, horrific commute, bitchiness, whatever, you name it, a management team or a leadership team that keeps changing their mind or come out with policies or blah, 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 you know it. You cannot wait to get rid of the bloody spreadsheets that make your soul die a little every time you open them up, and where actually what you're doing is you're just patching up other people's work. You're not creating things from scratch. You're not seeing yourself in the work. You're not really working on things that matter to you. You cannot wait to get rid of that, right? You cannot wait to get rid of having to be in one place or in front of one computer from 9 to 6 or 9 to 10 or whatever it is, or, like a child, even when you finish for the day. I have a really distinct memory of one of those I can't wait to get rid of that list moments. It was a couple of months before I left my career in HR, human resources for American investment banks. And I remember it was a Friday afternoon. It was around 2 p.m. It was on one of those beautiful early spring afternoons in London where it was sunny, it was warm. I remember looking out the window. I couldn't even open the bloody window. This was the financial district in London, so those windows were suicide-proof. I couldn't even open up the window to let some of that beautiful, warm spring air inside of this cloying office. And I was looking down at Cabot Square, this beautiful little green space, and there was people out there picnicking with picnic blankets, wine, all of that. And I was like, I've already finished my work for the week. I should be out there, having a great time, enjoying life. But because I work inside of this stupid 9 to whatever, 5, 6, 7, 8 structure, I now have to wait in here pretending to do work or doing even more work than I was supposed to, rather than just let go out there, enjoy myself and the sunny weather. And I remember just thinking, I can't wait to get rid of this. I can't wait to work for myself so that I don't have to fit into this infantilizing structure that teaches me when, how, where, and all of that kind of stuff to do things. And I bet you have loads of those ones too, right? Hello, my freedom-loving friends. Let's get you out of there. I'm sure you could easily complete this list of things that you cannot wait to get rid of. If not, I'll give you an exercise for that in a moment. What I want you to get here is that I want you to get excited about a near future where you no longer have to deal with, interact, or be exposed to any or as few as possible as those again, right? This will really help you override that feeling of loss, and instead it will make you feel motivated as heck, right? Because let's look at what stays. What stays and what you can continue building on and use as a launchpad. Who you fundamentally are and what you cannot help but bring to the work table because it's your unique way of being in the world. That you can keep building on. I have helped so many clients figure this out, who we uniquely are and what it is we bring to the work table. I'm amazed at how different and unique we all are because we all have skills we cannot help using, no matter what work scenario you're in, whether it's the problems that you solve, the way you solve them, the way you think, the way you bring people together, the way people respond to you, can even be technical skills, interpersonal skills, communication skills. None of those belong to your employer or your profession. They belong to you, and they come with you when it comes to that main stage, to your next thing. But this time, and this is what's really important, this time you are allowed to use them the way you like to use them. This is what I spend a lot of time with my clients doing, helping them identify exactly that skill set. And it's not just transferable skills or skills that belong to your profession. They're the ones that also you uniquely cannot help using no matter where you've been in even in careers you've not enjoyed. There are so many things we can build on. And here's also another real advantage to being over 40. Life leaves you massive clues as to what makes you you. 2-3 decades of clues. You've got far more in that pile than you have ever given yourself credit for that you can build on and use as a launchpad for your new thing, for your next thing. Skills, achievements, unique skills, natural abilities, unfair advantage, etc., etc. And as I said, that's on top of the traditional skills associated with your professions. This is not starting from scratch. This is an editing job. You decide what stays and you decide what you cannot wait to get rid of. And then, of course, there's also missing things that you might want to add, but we'll talk about that another time, right? If you want me to. So, what I want you to do to really get you fired up here and get you out of that emotional cloud is I want you to do a really concrete exercise, and I want you to do it right after you finish this or as soon as you can start this exercise. And I call this the I can't wait to get rid of that list, right? Start spotting and noticing things, whether it's job description elements or people or elements or scenarios or just things you cannot wait to get rid of. Start compiling it. I can't wait to get rid of that list. Write them down. You can already start the list, write down, I hate when I do this, or I don't enjoy this, or this makes me feel weak or inauthentic, value conflicts. I have no interest in this whatsoever. And I want you to start also as you go through your working day to just start making note of those repeated things that keep coming up again, where normally you would beat yourself up and like, oh my God, I hate this. This is so draining, or this makes me feel like this and that, instead of letting it get you down and let you lose confidence and all those other things that happen when you just stay for way too long in a job or career or profession you shouldn't stay in. That I can't just walk away trap. That's what's happening right here. Flip it around thing. Oh, yeah, that's it. That's one of those things. I just can't wait to get rid of that. That's why I really need to make that change, right? That list, running list, it should feel so bloody motivating. And by the way, that list will also be really helpful to figure out what you want to do, because you generally want to do the literal opposite of it. So it's a great tip for those of you who are also looking for input to those other things that you want to do, right? I bet you, even if I sat you down right now, you could definitely write down at least one thing. You could probably write many, depending on how you're wired. One specific thing about your current profession that you are so completely done with, or your current job, to start there. And then keep the list going. Every time something frustrates you this week or next week, write it down. I specifically hate this. This is not good enough. Add it to the list. Get granular. Get the specific. This is how you will very quickly start crowding out that I just can't walk away, or I'll be throwing it all away thoughts. That's how you start crowding out those unhelpful thoughts, and instead remind yourself why you need to get going with that career change and what it is you really want to throw away and get rid of, right? A career change is the perfect opportunity to start getting rid of what no longer works, what you hate, what's slowly killing you, what's slowly killing your creativity or your ability to truly feel like yourself or even like yourself. It's the perfect opportunity to take charge of your work life and do a really meaningful edit, so you don't throw the baby out with bathwater, and instead throw away only what you hate and what no longer works, i.e. what's on the I can't wait to get rid of that list. And a reminder, a truth here, everything else that's not on that list, everything you built so far in your career, that belongs to you. And you can continue using that, and it will also act as a phenomenal launchpad for what's next. So what if everything up until now was not wasted? What if it was the warm-up band? The years that you needed to figure out who you are, what you're bloody good at, and also what you absolutely cannot wait to get rid of. Now it's time for your main act. It's not a second act. I bloody hate that term, second act. No. Now is the time for your main act, your real thing. You're not starting from scratch. You're doing an edit. You're getting rid of what you no longer want, and you're keeping what's truly yours and adding what's missing. This belongs to you, my friend. All of those things you work so hard for. It doesn't belong to your employer, not to your profession. It belongs to you, and it's the perfect launchpad for what's next. If you want help with doing that edit, that's very much what I do with my clients. So come on over to thecareerchangepodcast.com, because it is time, my friend, to get excited about what you can get rid of and decide what you truly want to create next, rather than obsessively focus on recovering an investment that no longer makes sense to continue with. Your coming years, my friends, they are too important to spend inside an unhappy and unfulfilling I can't just walk away trap that does not hold up to scrutiny. Let's focus on instead what you truly want the coming years of your work life to be about, and then get you excited about creating it rather than just default to coping. I've got you. And if you need help with that, I'll see you over at thecareerchangepodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening.